Hello, we're live. Not turning on my camera today. I have poison ivy on the face, so my shit's all swollen and becoming crusty or
It's
dry,
turning into
whatever.
Palpatine slowly, or Two-Face, one of the other.
Oh man, yeah, it's fucking off. The whole time at the movie, I'm having to like wipe my left eye because my left eye is way more swollen. So it's like
every now and then, if you had other people around you, you should have gone like, ugh, like a little grunt noise or like twinge, like as if oh no, is he okay? His face is fucked up. And then people on the other side of you are like, he seems fine to me. But yeah, there you go. What a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Your favorite quote of the movie.
Fucking hate it. Fucking hated that. Yeah, so this one's hard to talk about. We will be spoiling it fully.
Full spoilers, full stop, full spoilers.
I got the wiki page up so you can go through point by point the plot and add to what may not be in here. But beforehand, I guess we'll just give like a kind of overview. We've watched all the Planet of the Apes within like the last year. That includes the entire 70s run of 5 films, the trilogy of the 2000s. That is a precursor to this movie.
And the Mark Wahlberg. Yep.
And I'm not a Burton fan, but fuck, I really like Burton's Planet of the Apes. I love all the Planet of the Apes movies. There's not a bad Planet of the Apes movie. They're all good. They all have different stuff. The original, I think, is amazing. Of course, it's an icon of like civil rights propaganda or allegory, whatever you want to call it. I love it for the fact of just the sci-fi angle, and then also I think the bigger idea behind Planet of the Apes is the pendulum of power. I get there's like a race element they're going with for the time they made it, but it really is a pendulum of power story that, like, yeah, when you get groups, there's no like equality. It's always just like a swinging back and forth.
Well, and there's always, I guess, human persistence in a way, and if apes also like attain this trait, how do they handle it essentially? And a lot of hero related stuff, like humans' determination is like their main feat, like compared to other species half the time, to aliens and stuff. So I feel like even in this film that plays a little bit, at least toward the end, they make that message a little more clear. But yeah, this one I love this whole series. It's all pretty good. The new the trilogy. What are we calling the ones of the recent years that are part of this current run? Because it's like reboot is. I feel like that doesn't fit it properly because it's not really trying to go over the same stuff as the old ones. If anything, it homages a couple of things, but it is really doing its own thing, its own way.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to if they'll ever directly tie these in with the old ones, because I feel like there's probably contradictions. I'm not that deep lore to like pick it apart and be like, oh, well, that doesn't work because of this and that. But
they already had a Caesar in the first one that was very different.
Yeah. And it seems that like in the original they modeled him as the lawgiver,
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like this is like homage, awareness of the original stuff, but doing its own thing.
It takes inspiration and takes it from there into this newer trilogy / series now.
Yeah, this what they've done. It feels very much like what I hate about other franchises. Like Halloween's had at least 2 true reboots to follow as sequels to the original film. And then you got Rob Zombies, which I like Rob Zombies because it feels like completely different from Halloween original. And I like that because it's like, well, sure, we got the character, but let's do something completely different. And I like that. But with like Halloween 20 whatever, it's like, oh yeah, this is a sequel to Halloween original. And
fuck all the other ones.
Jurassic World did the same shit where it's like, oh yeah, screw Jurassic Park 2 and 3, which 2 sucks. 2's stupid, but 3 is pretty good. but there's this attitude of like, well, we're gonna do it right, what they didn't do before.
We're gonna put the right amount of nostalgia berries in your mouth, and
The
you're gonna
smugness,
love everything else. And it's like, yeah,
the
I don't
smugness
know.
of franchise Hollywood, and then you see Planet of the Apes where it's like, oh no, like we're doing new things and we're doing it like literally better
This
with like
shows the most.
technology.
This shows the most respect, like to continue like doing a similar franchise or telling a story in a similar way, but doing something very different. Like
Yeah, there's no
in,
disdain.
in Rise of the Apes, there's callbacks to the first Planet of the Apes, but it's a type of thing that works in its own context and makes a lot of sense. Caesar's no like has a different meaning here than it does in the original when when he says no in those movies. Like there's a huge difference in it, and they both work for their stories, which is like that. This is doing it right and doing it well. It's not like a stupid copy type of thing. It works.
Yeah. Last week, so if you're not aware, my job alternates day and night every month, basically. And so I try to work in Thursday afternoon streams before work for about 2 hours, but I was just too tired. Had a lot of sleep problems last week, so didn't stream last week and didn't do a makeup stream for the weekend. Yeah. Got a few humanoids books into. Got the Eden one I mentioned before in the deluxe Jimenez, which was the artist for the Meta Barons first cycle. Cool. I've been trying to catch up and actually like read. I'm really bad about actually reading stuff on time when I get it, comic store wise. But I got a couple books this week. I was thinking about the Deviant from Image, and that book. I'm like, wait, where's the next issue? What the fuck? And then after I read the newest issue on like the free site, I go to the store and oh look, it's the release day of the newest issue. I'm like, oh thank God, right when I'm thinking about it, it's here. Awesome. And it's really good. Because it's like a gay focused character without being woke, even though I found interviews of the writer talking about like, oh, queerness and stuff, and it's like, oh fuck me. It's legitimately really good, the way they've written this story so far. It's about a serial killer, gay serial killer in the 80s, I guess. And so this guy has a direct tie to that because he was never aware as a kid of gay being an option in life until he found out about the gay serial killer. And so he has like a weird connection as a youth to this killer. And so it's a meta book because it feels like the guy literally self-inserting himself as a creative into the book. But I don't know. I appreciate it because it's not a sanitary, it's not clean. It's not plot armoring the gay people, It feels like however woke the actual writer is, it feels like something's like good and honest out of this despite narrative. So I like it. I appreciate it. I think we need to promote books like this to fight wokeness. But yeah, that, and then Scotty Young, who's famous for I Hate Fairyland, which I've not read, but I'm aware of. He's got a new book called Ain't No Grave. It's like a fantasy western, and man, the art just stands out so much. Love it. So it's a good time for me with the comics. And Darth Maul. I read Darth Maul. I think it's a week old, but the Darth Maul Black, White, and Red. Oh man, that was pretty cool. Pretty simple, but fuck, that was a good book. I can't wait to read the next sequel. I don't know how much depth we'll get with Maul because he's a pretty limited character, but he's fun to play with here and there. But yeah, thanks for joining, Eldridge. Wait, I work what? S&M. You're on nights right now. Yeah, shift work. Yeah, 12-hour shifts. The art is just phenomenal. Okay, I'll look into it. But yeah, anyway, Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, so this movie, Kingdom of the Apes, kind of takes a little. I don't know if it takes inspiration or continuation from in War of the Planet of the Apes. There's a little bit of Jesus. What's the word for it? Like he's like has to suffer a little bit for his people. He's on a cross, sort of, or an X cross or whatever. What do you call? Why can't I do the words right with it? The fuck
cross.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because he's like X shaped in it. So is that like still called a cross or called something else?
There is
Like an altar, or is that like what I'm thinking of?
X
Or
shaped
the word? I'm trying to think of like the
cross.
wording for it, and I feel like I'm just coming up with the wrong words to describe something, and I'm like, well,
St. Andrew's cross. St. Andrew was crucified on an X.
Okay, yeah. So he was like St. Andrew's crossed and whipped and suffering for his people, sort of, and the other one, and he was like the major savior. He led his people out of, the hell zone of the humans and ape war, essentially, and human on human war and whatever, into the promised lands of wherever the fuck. And now we're, generations later, many generations later, he's sort of a myth, a legend. The people aren't fully accurate with all of the history. It's whatever information that gets passed down properly. Some apes are aware of him, some have no clue who he is at all. Now, what do you think of that direction going that way?
Well, okay, I gotta say this. I'm really bad about picking out like acts. I understand like the 3-act structure, but it's really hard for me to like piece out in most movies like, oh, end of act 1 and here is the low point of act 2 and then the crescendo. No, I hate that. I'm not going to write that way. I know comics
that's fine,
kind of different anyway.
People could still organize it that way for you in their head and go, this is at the end of that act, and like, even if you're not paying attention to it, that's often where it'll be, like when Noah's village gets attacked, that's like the end of act 1 essentially.
I still can't quite piece out exactly, but I really fucking hated some of the pacing. It was just so obviously formulaic. I really hated that shit. I hated like, oh look, here's Obi-Wan. This the orangutan, I can't remember his name, but the orangutan, it's like his Virgil.
I couldn't tell if he said his name was Marcus or Arcus.
I thought he's good voice act, but
really great voice.
It was so obvious what he was.
The plot beat, like so that was actually something I was thinking about too. The film, I didn't feel like the film coming out of it that it did anything that spectacular. It did a very common story that I feel like we've seen a whole bunch, which isn't a problem. It just it felt okay. Yeah, you've hit hit the natural beats, I guess.
Well, no, for a fourth movie, I know it's like a change of hands of like ownership with Fox being absorbed into Disney with the buyout, but this like their creativity, like this is a fourth film in a saga. It's not as bad like a reboot starting point like Force Awakens, which is fine for what it is, and the baggage Star Wars has for them taking it on. Totally understandable. You gotta be way more safe with that franchise. But and it's not to say that they go anywhere close to that with this, but it just felt like for the stakes of Planet of the Apes and to not lean into like race as like an element like the first film, especially in the woke times we're in, it's so easy to try to gin up some BLM or like cop shit with the legacy of Planet of the Apes original film. It's so easy for them to like fall into that, and they don't. So like that's cool that we're still telling unique, but it just felt like way too safe. It didn't feel like they're setting it, but
that's kind of what I meant. They did it simple and safe without anything spectacular. There was no jump, there's no like jolt of like, whoa, awesome, or whoa, that was oof. There was no oomph to it. It wasn't bad. It was done, I'd say, right, as far as you check off what you need to do, but there wasn't enough there to really gain as much interest, I guess.
Do you know who the actor that played Proximus is? I was so surprised because I thought this was going to.
No, but I like.
The black guy in Gladiator. It's like Demouge or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Not him. I thought it was him. Let me.
I have no idea. I have no idea who voiced Proximus.
You're gonna be so fucking surprised.
It's gonna be
this
like
guy.
Who the fuck is that?
You've seen Walking Tall, right?
Like a million years ago. I don't.
Yeah, he's one of the little goons in Walking Tall. Here's some of these other movies, but I'm just like,
I
wait,
don't remember
this
him.
guy is Proximus?
Dude,
He
what a
fucking
voice on him. Damn, all right.
yeah, it's like Avatar. It's so convincing in Avatar that everyone besides Jake Sully is like a foreigner, like in real
Yeah.
life. And it's
Oh,
like, oh yeah, all of his kids are just like white kids. Like the
yeah.
actual actors just white kids, but they like really did the voice work so well to sound foreign. Uh
Wait, hold on. He's confused in the chat here. No, so Caesar is not the protagonist in this one.
yeah.
They mentioned the guy Proximus.
Proximus Caesar.
He calls himself Proximus Caesar, like as if he's a descendant or the next reincarnation kind of thing, sort of. But they
definitely
don't go
not
too much into it. No.
Well, he's definitely not, because it turns out Proximus is a bonobo. He's not a chimp.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, yeah. He's got a visual difference and
no. Well,
species.
bonobos, especially like his size compared to the rest of them, he seemed like I assumed he was a chimp with just maybe a color variation, but that I found somewhere that like it's verified he's a bonobo. He's the second bonobo of the franchise, Koba being the first one, and of course he was a villain, so they're playing with that a little bit. I don't know if he's supposed to be a descendant or not, but
I don't think it's direct if that is, you know.
But it's pretty obvious, especially the face, that Noah, our main guy, is clearly the next Caesar. He's probably from like the bloodline of him. He looks just like him. It's really good casting. The guys, like, they really brought his face to life through the
Yeah, they do really good at like making it look like a chimp, but also enough human facial features in there to feel its emotion essentially. Again,
yeah.
they really like putting close-ups on these guys because it looks so good.
Oh, dude, yeah. Some of the first shots, like when he's like in the ash, it looked fucking real. Like sometimes it's like obvious, especially like the birds. Like, okay, it's clearly a computer, but sometimes it's not as consistent as good as War. And I think War for Planet Apes works well because they had so little ape work besides like Caesar. It's a lot of just
in this film. There's a lot of it. That's what's impressive too. There's a lot more apes in this one to have to worry about or deal with and animate essentially, or consider.
Yeah, it was nice to like. I was definitely thinking about Last of Us watching this show.
I did too. Well, I had the vibes.
Visually, it's a lot of like
the overgrown green over old buildings. It's a cool effect for futuristic setting that also feels primitive.
Yeah, when I think about it, makes me think of like old Valeria as well, like the little ruins you can find in Essos in Game of Thrones. Yeah, I did good. So when we come in this world, very quick synopsis, paragraph, whatever, of the previous films, summarizing them. And
which by the way, I'm not a fan of the text. The very first thing you see to start the film is like text on the screen that tells you what happened before. I just don't like that in movies. That seems like the laziest thing to do. It's just like, it's one thing with Star Wars where they use the music, the flow of the credits, and get you right into what it was just talking about. That's different. This is like, this is we don't know how to convey this to you quickly enough, so we're just gonna tell you. That's how I feel about it. That's what any movie that has it like this, I criticize.
Yeah, let me step out. Bigger picture though, really quick, is I love learning about primatology on YouTube when I can, or Spotify, like listening to actual scientists and doctors and theorists, whatever, if I can find it. And a couple months ago I saw Godzilla Kong, and they've taken that franchise to complete like Transformers dog shit, when it started with like really trying to be plausible with the science and have real intrigue with the universe, and then like whatever, like there's a ice age turtle and there's a mean monkey that controls it, and King Kong has a glove already available conveniently. He gets just frostbitten enough to need it, like
and it cures his frostbite.
Yeah.
Instead of like losing his arm.
And Godzilla and Kong are kind of buddies. It's just like someone that really loves sci-fi and shit like Ex Machina or Annihilation, even Quiet Place, even though Quiet Place is kind of fucking retarded with like having an apex predator land here and be an apex predator with like nothing, no
Yeah,
challenge.
that one's a mixed bag, but it's still like good.
Yeah, it's like
That's
there's
funny.
a like that. That's why I love that movie. It's like the scientific intrigue of an apex predator from a
It's
foreign
a good
environment.
what if kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really cool because it's like Alien. Alien's got a lot of groundwork with the prequel and stuff of like, well, here's why it is like a prime killer, you know. But then it's not like necessarily super smart overall. So
Yeah.
there's a balance, it's so refreshing to like have seen Godzilla Kong, which I'm fine with stupid kaiju
And that was
punchy
recently.
movie.
That was like what, like a month or two ago? That
Yeah,
wasn't even that long ago.
I'm very fine with dumb movies like that. But given where it comes from, it's very disappointing that they've just settled to be dumb. And this is Planet of the Apes, even this one I think being the worst Planet of the Apes movie. Uh it's still really good, and just like the little subtleties of like communication where they're trying to like, all right, how do you humanize ape behavior convincingly? Just little things like
Well,
that.
they still have like the sign language as like a cultural thing that got passed on still, that they still have a lot of English that they talk and stuff, but I don't know, yeah, like there's a lot of, you can feel the passion that went into this, like to what would they be doing. There's a lot of fish that they're catching and stuff, and like they're teaming up with the eagles, and like, raising eagles since they're born, getting them when they're eggs. I didn't understand that at first, but I was like, oh yeah, because they imprint on you.
Falconry.
They imprint. They kept on saying eagle though, but
Well, no, I'm just saying falconry. Like I think that's the overall term of like
oh,
training.
I got you. Yeah. And so I was like, that's kind of an interesting element, and I don't like, they didn't need to put that in there, but that's something that makes it more unique, I think.
Well, yeah, it's like that. It rounds out, and I kind of hate how it rounds out because, like, I love Avatar, and Avatar is fucking simple. It is basically, I mean, this is an overstatement, but it's basically Ferngully or Dance with the Wolves. It's industrialized colonizer meets indigenous, and clashes, and there is like a race trader that is the ace in the hole to defeat them. Classic story. But it's unique enough on some because it's got a lot of sci-fi elements that aren't part of those kind of race trader stories. This one is very obvious it was going to become like Lord of the Rings bullshit of like this like hippie naturalism bullshit I fucking hate, where it's like, oh, we need to like embrace nature, and like clearly our hero is going to win because he embraces nature. He
Well, so
he
hold
communes
on,
with
hold on,
the eagles,
hold on.
and
So
Badman.
so we can get to the climax later, because that was something. I like the eagle stuff, except for how it's used in the climax. Like, and if anything, I kind of thought this what kind of disappoints me a little bit is that I think you're right. They're trying to invoke like an adventure thing, but like if anything, I thought they were going to lean into a little bit more like how, I don't know, how it's like intelligent, sort of like a human, the apes are, but with their connection to nature, how do they utilize it? And it didn't really come into play at all at any point. So it just kind of felt just like a regular, like it's no different than any other travel story, than any other adventure, really. It's like there's nothing really unique to it. Again, like you said, and he literally falls into Obi-Wan Kenobi, essentially. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's stuff here that's good, but it does fall weaker. It is weaker than the others. So there wasn't. I feel like the other ones had a lot more they wanted to say, and they propped up villains in proper ways. And the other ones that clash with the main character, and the villains or antagonists, I guess I should say, were in it from the beginning or pretty early in the other ones anyway. As for in this one, Proximus isn't even in it really. Like, he's not really in it until like what, halfway through.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like characterized pretty quickly, and I don't know. I wish there was a lot more time with him as a character and what he thinks, and his, like, he seems to love Roman history specifically. I'm like, oh, Angus will love that. But
yeah,
then
I'm
it's
like, oh my god,
even
the apes,
they barely
the
leaned
apes
into,
want to be Roman bros. Hell
they barely leaned into like Roman things at all. And so I was kind of like, well, that's a great idea, but then you don't do anything with it. So that kind of pisses me off a little. You know, that's kind of how I
Yeah, it's
felt.
like he's got this idea of making a kingdom, and yeah, I
I
just
was like, I
love.
was like, where? Like in your the ruins of a ship? Like that's it? It's your
Well,
kingdom?
yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's like 300 years later, and these fucking apes that are evolved, are intelligent like humans. They're what we with our medicine attempts literally create our own virus to undermine ourselves and promote them to be the prime intelligent species. And yet 300 years later, they're still living like fucking Indians when they're literally living in metal rusting out giant barge boats. Like none of them figured out to like, oh, let's like make boats.
Well, I thought if anything they would have built their own structures, like try to be tall, especially if they're looking at Roman stuff. What did
Well, that
Romans do well, Angus? They
they
build
literally
things. They're
rummaged through the
engineers.
ruins of humanity. That's what's frustrating. It's like they like
Yeah.
the narrative of like, oh, humans are completely dumb and whatever, and it's like, well, who the fuck do you think made these? Because y'all can't make
When
them.
they couldn't even open the door, and he knows it, and he has a smart human that he's talking to that is smart and can read.
Well, no, but that's the thing. Proximus is trying to tap into the technology of humanity to advance uh ape kind.
It's like we should
And
have had way more time with this, like with that concept. He almost expressed nothing like that though, other than saying he said the dialogue, but he didn't like do anything. You know, that as
yeah,
a character,
it,
he just is he's just like I want to advance and
well,
evolve us really quick. Isn't that great? And
I
it's like
haven't
why does he even give a shit about Noah?
I
Why
haven't
does he give
read
shit?
it, but from what I understand, reading synopsis, the original Planet of the Apes book that inspired the first movie is like the astronaut goes through the wormhole, whatever, and he's in like apes are just like people. They have cars and buildings. They wear suits and ties. They go
Yeah,
to
more like the end of the 2001 version or six
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. And
That
so it's
was
like you
advanced.
think they would play with that, where it's like, okay, the original film was way more primitive to save on the budget because they couldn't like afford to try to like make ape cars and ape buildings and take humanize modern technology for a convincing set. So they went primitive and had it very simplistic. And the only real industry the apes have are guns. Um, weapons of war, which is
Which you feel
cool.
like if they had guns, they'd have other things too that go into that
I
essentially.
don't know, man, because we started using like guns and cannons in the 1400s, so it took us a while to figure out making cars.
Well, I guess I mean in other pieces of technology you're
But yeah,
familiar
we
with
were
what I mean.
stonemasonry and shit. There's a lot of other things we figured out uh with building and industry. I mean, there was factories. The Romans mass produced armor. They didn't have like electricity, so it's very interesting to actually think like how much they equipped all their soldiers with mass production, and yet they're still just like burning giant ovens. Anyway, this is the things I think about. It's like the more you put effort you put into like this, the more convincing the world is. And Avatar, as simple as it is, they do a lot of that groundwork in the background, at least. Um, and that's disappointing. It's like there's all this layering of the first three films of like apes finding their foothold through Caesar. That's the other thing. I think what really missed. So we spent like 30 minutes with Noah with this fucking bird plot. This it's like they're the Eagle clan. They never express like how they interact with other clans because it seems like they're aware of
I
other
assumed
clans.
I assumed that they like send messages to each other and stuff via their birds and stuff, like to show that type of advancement now or something.
Well, yeah, because he makes a point like, oh, we are Eagle people. We uh are skilled with birds, so it's like that's their specialty, and that way thus you assume that could be like some sort of trade.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, so yeah, if you are, why would you clarify yourselves as Eagle people if that's not like what
Yeah.
you would just be the people that also do this? But I don't know.
And so they never address the outer world and how they interact. uh they seem very much cloistered in their little valley or whatever, and they go explore and poach eggs from the eagles, which if they're like have like a lineage of eagle training, you think they would have like domesticated them to some extent and
no.
had their own nests.
At the end, I think they show that they're finally having the nests in their village. I'm like, I thought that's kind of what the point was anyway. I mean, you hatch them here, and then you would have them here, right? Like,
yeah, but
why would they? Why go out and steal most of their eggs except for one, and then be like, all right, peace out. Like,
yeah, so they steal the eggs, they raise them. His dad is like the elder of the tribe and like master eagler or whatever you want to call him. And they never actually, and so they got this trope of like, oh, he's kind of a fuck up. He's always never gets like the respect of his dad that he wants or whatever. And that seems to be a conflict. And yet they never really show the dad side of things. And I think that's like the big missing hook for us to care like we do about Caesar.
yeah, I know what the
Caesar,
contrast
we
was.
see like he is orphaned because of like a misunderstanding with his mother because they didn't know she was pregnant and had a baby, which is kind of retarded if you're like in a science lab that you wouldn't be doing blood
Well,
work
this
and
whole
stuff.
time she was pregnant. Jesus.
Yeah, but you know, whatever. They did really good with the first movie, so I can allow them.
There's a couple of oversights here or there, maybe. Sure.
But yeah, there's no like emotional hook to understand. We get that he likes a girl in the trio.
Which also kind of felt irrelevant, though. Like,
yeah, it went
I don't
nowhere.
know. It just didn't seem needed. So I guess I'm okay with there being a thing of like, okay, he's got to go climb a huge thing and get an egg or something. Okay, I'm okay if that's how you start. But yeah, I do kind of agree with that. Mostly because of the time you could have spent on other things. Maybe
There was so much time on the stupid eagle
maybe that
intro.
could have just been like 3.5 minutes or something. Because otherwise, this feels as pointless as in Godzilla Kong, where he's getting chased by the dog things and he's got traps, and he like pours blood on himself with what it's like. We didn't need to see any of this, honestly. It's kind of lame. Like, could have just kind of skipped over this part. It doesn't really add anything to anything. So yeah.
Well, no, that's annoying in that movie because it's like, wait, he's that smart to set traps for competing predators, and yet he never knew there's like a hole in his lair to go to another hole.
But we can't go into Godzilla Kong. Too many things wrong with it. We can't go into that movie. But the point is, for this movie, their Falcon stuff should have been just maybe like 3 minutes long. Not that long.
It's like literally 30 plus minutes of just the eagle shit and the drama of like, oh, I suck and oh man, I smashed my egg because of a human.
You know, I'm annoyed with that too. Honestly, I was like, okay, I know you're trying to do this sort of thing, but God, can you just do something else a little bit, or make one little twist on that thing so that it's a little different? It was literally the beat for beat. Yeah, I didn't, I couldn't get everything right. Gee, Luke wasn't even that much like, he wasn't even like a fuck up at all. He was just a farm boy who wanted to do more. But he wasn't like, oh, I suck at everything. Like, I don't know. I guess that was the thing too. There's nothing unique about our character here. He's just kind of like, yeah, he does eagle stuff, but he sucks at that. He's not really a fighter. He's not. I don't know what he wants or does, really. I can't really describe the character, really.
Yeah.
Can you describe the main character? I don't really think I can.
Not really. I was kind of annoyed when we got to Proximus and he's like, I have use for clever apes. And it's like, what's fucking clever about him?
Honestly, I was like, what interest, like what use? Why are you even talking to him? Honestly. Like, why do you care?
Besides
didn't do anything amazing.
Besides him already having some sort of relationship with the girl May, there's nothing to indicate he's a clever ape.
No, literally, I was like, what part was clever? With what?
Yeah,
like what in the movie makes you think he's clever? Because he didn't die yet. Like, I don't.
that was definitely annoying.
He got kicked off the thing by the gorilla. He got chased, and I guess he saved the girl real quick because he's on a horse, and then he gets caught on the bridge, and then he's like, "You are a clever ape."
Yeah, I don't.
Wait. I think they say. I guess they say because he fixed the electric rod.
Oh yeah, he fixed the rod.
Which honestly, that confused me even more a little. Now we're talking about the movie. Now I don't think I like the movie. more I'm thinking about it, because like he
Yeah,
just kind of
I like it for
fiddles
they're
with
setting up. They're setting up. This is a setup for new troubles and stuff, conflicts. But
Yeah, but
it's
this
by itself, it's not good.
it's like, and again, there's things in it, there's passion in it, but overall, I can't say this is like a good movie, really. Like when he fiddles with the thing, I'm like, okay, and then he fixes it. It's like, wait a second. So, like, what about what we've seen from you makes us think you can do that? Like that makes you clever or special or
Well,
what?
because
So, like,
earlier,
has he problem solved any
earlier it
situations?
looked like he was making a spear or something, and it turned out he was just making like a new piece of wood for like this like stand for the fish getting sun dried.
Yeah, literally, it took 2 seconds. He just like put a thing there.
And he's like,
And it's like,
oh, it's like, well, what did that matter?
no,
Like,
literally, I was like, I thought it was gonna be like significant, and like somebody steals the fish, then he gets blamed for it or something. It's like where I thought it was gonna go. It would have been dumb than cliche too, but that would have made more sense why you even showed that. I thought if anything, it was gonna be like, we've been watching Breaking Bad, and Walt always has little schemes and his little knowledge of some kind that can get out of. He can do a lot of bizarre things and get out of
he
situations.
MacGyvers
He's
himself out of
he's a
problems.
chemistry MacGyver. He's a meth MacGyver, and I assumed that our clever ape would have like at least had a little bit of ingenuity of some kind that we see, like either fixing a weapon or doing something with the birds that makes sense or whatever. You think they would have like kind of made the bird thing be concluded within the first act? I know you hate act breaking up, but if you're going to introduce it, you want that to be important. It can come into play later, but if anything, wrap it up in here, because we don't come back to it until the very end, really. Like, not really, with the eagle thing, and it's still kind of dumb. So, yeah, they didn't do a good job characterizing him. And I think of War of the Planet of the Apes, and I'm like, there's a lot of character in the characters we get to see. The orangutan that's with them, and that's the one that's been around for a while, but still, the zoo chimp, Caesar, Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, I'm looking up. So there's like the name Proximo, like in Gladiator, which I assume is probably a real Latin name. But I'm looking at Proximus, and I'm not finding anything to do with Rome specifically.
I think they just liked the name and sounded like,
I think it just made it
Maximus
up.
and maybe
Well,
Proximus.
because okay, the
Spartacus.
first real Latin thing I find is where'd it go? Proximus pubertati. Proximus pubertati is a Latin term in Roman law, means near puberty. It refers to a person who's likely to know right from wrong. All right, so it's like Proximus is more of like an adjective, not a name. And so when they call him when you see something like in Alien, in Prometheus, the name Prometheus has a mythological weight to it, and so that should key you in to something, some element that the movie's going to be about. That's going to echo something
It
from the
informs you in some way.
Promethean,
Yes.
Alien Romulus. It's like Romulus is the child, Romulus and Remus, raised by the she-wolf in Roman mythology that founded Rome. Eventually kills his brother Remus, founds Rome on the Seven Hills. And so with Alien Romulus, I assume there's going to be some sort of allegory. They literally have this Romulan symbol of the she-wolf feeding the children in the ship on the trailer. So clearly they're clearly echoing something about Rome. Just like, so I'm like Proximus. I'm like very interested to like look up what that has to do with Rome. But no, it's literally they made a name out of an adjective. So he's like he's near Caesar. He's near king. If I'm trying to translate that truly, and it's like stupid.
Yeah, I thought it was okay if they praised Caesar or something, but that he's his own person. Would have been better. But he's like, I'm going to make my own mark, but it's in the honor of Caesar, kind of thing in history is what I thought it was going for. But then it wasn't. Okay, with the armor too, you've looked at more Roman stuff than I have. Like, I didn't get any sign that they had Roman stuff on.
Like, it's shoulder pads. That's
like, well, I mean, again, the Roman aspect wouldn't be that important, but they made it specific to have her pick up a book. And he's like, oh, he loves Roman history. And then he's like, wow, Roman is like, they're trying to have Rome be like an influence for our character here, for our antagonist. but there's like nothing emulated about it. And even like when they try to open the door, he's like, "Okay, y'all suck today. I guess try to not suck tomorrow." That was really lame. It's really lame. I don't know. We're jumping ahead a bit here and there, I guess. But
yeah, well, it's a real mixed bag.
so hold on. So we're following a character called Noah, which I got to be honest, the first like 7 times I heard them say Noah, I thought they said Nova quite a few
Yeah,
times, and then some of them like say Nova quickly, where it sounds like Noah, Noah, or something. I'm like, is his name Noah? And then he's like, no, we call her Nova. And then at some point, I think she says Noah. She yells Noah, and I was like, oh, his name is Noah. And okay, wow, because why'd they pick a name so close?
well, I don't know why they picked Noah, because like something like this, and they're literally in the universe, they're inheriting humanity's role, and so when you watch a movie
Elon
like this,
Musk, no, the ape.
so like I was trying to see what the connection with like the biblical Noah is. Noah's the
Ozark.
first patriarch after the flood, so he's a very important name. I was expecting some kind of real allegory play on that, like if they named a character Moses.
Oh no! Remember they flood the dam, or they flood the thing in the end, like Noah.
I guess maybe that is a
I just
little
thought of that
connection.
just now, but that's still such a vague connection and not very cleverly done. And that was actually her that did that, not even him. So, never
Yeah.
mind.
So,
Never mind. Fuck that.
well, it was interesting that yeah, I'm really stuck on the second half because you get so much.
Well, then can we bulldoze through the first half then?
Sure.
Because there's not much to say there. So, the eagle thing is seriously like the main like 15, 20 minutes of the movie, and then at nighttime he's like, I don't know what he's doing. He's just around. Yeah, that's when he fixes the fish thing for like 2 seconds, and then he goes into a tent because he hears something, and then our human character shoves him and breaks his little egg that he carried around his chest, and then he's like, "Oh crap! I had to go find a new egg, guys." And then I'm sorry, it took a little while to leave for me. I'm like, just fucking go. Just cut to where he's chasing her. Like, you don't need to talk about it, honestly. And then, all right, finally he goes out and tries to find a new egg, but then he hears some commotion, and there's one ape introduced for like 3 seconds earlier that gave him a fist bump, and then he's like fighting a whole bunch of scout apes, I guess, and got killed.
Yeah, one of the elders goes out to like scout or whatever, and then he finds them, and
And then there's like a whole bunch of enemy ones, the Roman ones essentially, and they're like, "Oh, hail Caesar!"
like,
Basically,
oh, the masked apes, this made it seem like the masks were like a big deal, and then no one's really wearing a mask
irrelevant.
after that.
Yeah, and it was irrelevant. It was really kind of lame. And then, but yeah, so then he's like, "Oh no, they find Caesar, or not Caesar, they find Noah's horse, or the other guy's horse, I don't know." And then they're like, "Oh, they tase it, and it'll lead us back to the village, and I don't know, we'll fuck everybody up." And then they go, and then Noah follows them, and then everybody's getting rounded up. This type of sequence just seemed weird to me. I'm like, are you trying to kill everybody? No, you are trying to round them up, but the way they show it is, I don't know. It just kind of annoyed me the way they're showing the sequence to me. And then he's like, "Oh no, I got to go to the top and save my dad, and then save the birds." He's saving the birds, and then there's a pointless. I thought it was kind of a lame thing to even have a little fight scene with Noah's dad
Gorilla.
and the gorilla. I'm just like, I don't know. We don't need an action scene in all this stuff, And it just seemed like, I don't know, like it felt weird. It was just like, I don't know. Okay, you're fighting, but you're not really doing anything to each other, and then you get your ass kicked, I guess, and then you get kicked off the thing. I don't know. Something about it just felt weird to me, the way that they decided to do it. Oh, come on, we have to save the birds, and they like take 10 seconds to untether a thing.
Wait, Eldritch, what is POTA?
I have no idea.
Interesting POTA stories that can be told.
A Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay. Duh. I just never seen it acronymed like that. Like Lord of the Rings, you see Loader or KOTOR for Knights of Olympus. Like those are like kind of impressed on my brain, but I've never seen anyone say POTA.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, it was just, I'm watching this and I'm waiting for like a hook. And I'm just like, God, this is not doing anything for me.
Yeah, and then he gets kicked off the thing, and he wakes up, and everybody's gone, and because they took them, everything's all burned. He's like, "Wah, I'm gonna go. My aunt and uncle are dead. I gotta go join Obi-Wan now," essentially. And then I don't know what happens next. There's like some rain, and he's undercover, and then I don't know. It took another few minutes before he falls into the hole and runs into
Yeah,
Marcus or
it
Arcus
seems
or
like it's a
whatever.
trap,
I
but
thought
then
it was
it's
a
like
trap, like to
completely
cook. I
on
thought it was a
accident.
trap to cook you. Essentially, I thought it was like catches prey and starts cooking them right away. Essentially,
Nope, it was
and it's
just the guy had a funeral pyre for
just
his
it was a
fellow.
coincidence, kind of, and he wasn't. It didn't seem like he knew that would happen at all, and then was like, "Oh, you under the mask, you're so young," and he's just like, "Nah, that's not me." He's like, "Okay."
Yeah, once he popped in,
And
I'm like, all right, now we're finally get the story that I'm interested in.
and I love the voice for that character. It's really good. The orangutan's nice and cool. I like the orangutan character. He's nice, and he's like the last of his order, essentially. I'm like, oh, Angus will like this stuff. This guy, you know, he's still like, got the history
Yeah, I was very interested. Yeah,
keeping.
Raka.
And then go ahead. You could probably describe this part if you want.
Yeah, it's cool because he tells him like, oh, like yeah, like I'm the last of my order. He says something about Caesar's like, I've heard that name. They said that name like for Caesar. He's like, they're basically a cult. They misconstrue the legend of Caesar, this basically like Muhammad or Jesus figure in this guy's
Caesar
order.
isn't in the movie. He's referenced as like a legend and myth. The new guy in the chat.
Yeah, and I thought that was very cool playing with like this because you see the original films and it's like Caesar, the lawgiver, God created ape in his image. All it's all this layering of religion and theocracy and
Went
law
over
and
time, and who was around that witnessed it aren't around anymore. What was passed on, what stayed, what went as you spread it. It was only this one cluster of apes that witnessed it anyway, and then as they spread out, like who decides to keep it going.
yeah, and that's cool. Then he shows them books and he's like, these symbols have meaning and stuff, and he's like, it's very interesting to me that in this world, as a contrast to the original films, that like
they kept their literacy. Essentially, they kept the
there's at
more
least an
similar to
order
humans.
staying literate, but there's this this series has like gone a different route where it's like basically no one's maintaining writing or culture. Having art and literature is a great sign of how cultured a society is. And you see a lot of shortcomings in societies that don't maintain that. Like the Vikings didn't figure out to write shit really until they were Christianized. And so whatever's preserved of their mythology, you have to like take with a grain of salt, that it is at all a true telling of their lore, but I thought that was interesting, and I'm like, okay, cool. And they start like traveling together, and when they're about to leave, he's like kind of like giving them synopsis of like, oh yeah, humans are used to, Caesar like made this preserve for them, there's herds of humans, and now they're like seem very withered away as a species, and they're just kind of like pests for ape, and
Yes,
they're just stupid, bothersome creatures in their
fucking
view.
raccoon stealing my apple or something.
And then he's like going through this like area where Raka lives, and he's like informing them of the humans had way more impact in the world. Of course, he's not aware that like humans ran shit, but he's aware that humans raised Caesar. So there's and so he talks all this like compassion idea of like not devaluing humans, that like they matter to Caesar. I don't quite get why, but they matter to him, so they matter to me.
Yeah.
And so
he's using faith essentially.
This all informs a new perspective of humans a bit for Noah.
Yeah.
And so it's when it keeps following them, they Rock is kind of kind, throws food to it, and it's like scavenging and staying
Yeah,
on
as
the
I'm thinking
edge of
about it, this is the parts where with him were probably my favorite. Like in the story, like walking through his perception of the past.
Yeah, and they take on this human girl with them, and traveling.
Well, it's like
And
she's been following them essentially for a while, and they're not sure why. And it seemed like the reason why their village was attacked was because she was running away from those guys, from those apes.
yeah, and I'm trying to recall. Eventually, they find like a
They
herd
find
of
like a little.
zebra,
They find the zebra. Yeah.
and so now there's a herd of zebra. And then they see a herd of humans.
Well, hold on. Before that, they have a funny little conversation. He's like, "Man, it sucks for humans because they only have two hands. If they climb a tree, it's they can walk on their feet. He's like, for us though, you got four limbs to have better safety chances." I thought that was kind of funny little conversation.
Yeah, no, that
like,
felt like some
like, I
sort
like
of
that. That's a Last of Us kind of conversation.
for like a religious character that Rocky is, maintaining some semblance of history. Um, there's a lot of dead spots in his knowledge that isn't his fault, and so I kind of see a layering for the future through that little
Yeah,
observation.
it's like you can
where it's
do.
like
Good.
he will, this view by religious educated can be codified and like, well, clearly ape is superior to human can't even climb trees properly. They only have two hands. They don't have like hand feet like apes,
Hand feet.
and
Yes.
yeah, like when it's our the
Well,
lack of
and the fur, the
science.
lack of fur, he's like, they get cold. Look at him. You need to give him the blanket. It's cold. She's cold.
Yeah, well, that made me think too about if there's ever an apocalypse of whatever kind, like Planet of the Apes or Walking Dead, I would instantly go north. I would go to snowy areas, and it would be harsher and harder to survive. There's less people though, less chance of conflict and thievery and murder. And so that's just this movie has helped codify this kind of doomsday prepper idea of like go north.
Yeah.
Because like it makes a lot of sense to go south and maybe have
Mass amounts of
numbers.
people can't even really survive up north anyway. It would deplete to smaller numbers pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, but yeah, it's just like out of like long-term survivability, I think like you'd have to go north and fortify yourself, and then try to become a leader to then go south, be a southern invader,
build your strength up and shit. Yep.
But yeah, well, you got to think too. In an apocalypse industry, it's very evident with like European and Asian history, all the innovations that both collective pockets of humanity, it's because they lived in harsh environments. Like Africa, they didn't make the will in Africa, because it's like they didn't need to. They didn't need to be industrious because all you need is a spear or a bow and arrow, or I guess a sword. All you need is like a simple weapon, and you can manipulate your environment enough to coast. It's it's lots of vegetation, so you can just hunt or gather simply. We did it for thousands of years without any advancement.
You didn't need to farm.
And then you look at like Rome, it's like, well, half the year is you got crops there, but then you need to actually grow, you need to like store food. And so you got to like figure out preservation. You gotta have weaponry
you need
to defend your stockpiles.
You need to protect your food from other animals or people trying to get your food.
Yeah, like this is why I'm like, go north. If there's ever an apocalypse, go north, because when you do start collectivizing, you're gonna have people like invested in industry of different kinds, and that's how you can become an invader. And it's whether you're talking about European history or Asian, because all the great Asian people have to deal with winter too, versus like like more equatorial Asians. They're kind of like Africa, where they coast, they have simple weapons, and there's always food to eat all year.
Yep.
So it's like a nice little nugget that informed real life like awareness, and that's what sci-fi should be doing. Is like philosophizing about like, well, if we could hit this technological peak, what would that mean? Or if there's a calamity with our industry, what would that mean? That's so that's why Planet Apes is such a cool universe, and this one feels like the most underwhelming, especially with
Yeah.
like how wacky the first five go.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
So they find this clutch of humans, a herd of humans, essentially, and I don't really think much of them with that. They don't really focus on them at all. They're just like, oh, they're just drinking water, and then they run away, like whatever. The Proximus soldiers are here, and they're trying to catch the girl still. They end up catching a bunch of humans, kind of homaging the capture sequence of the first Planet of the Apes film. And Noah's trying to find her, and they get in the raptor tall grass. I guess they're watching Jurassic Park as well now with that, and they're looking for her, and she's like, oh crap, she sees Noah, and then she has to stand up and scream Noah.
that's when I've like actually, besides like Raka and just my interest in religion and history, he kind of woke me up. But my first real like wake up moment was when it's like they're catching all the people because they're trying to find her specifically, but like humans all look alike to these apes
Yeah,
basically.
he's like the one was like,
Is it this one?
I love that. But no, if anything, I was kind of like, huh. I was thinking about this. So like, I get that. So there's humans that are able to survive here, but they're also they're covered their genitals up. But I would think she was the only one that had a shirt. I would think that they all would try to have something to cover themselves, like if not blanket, because they'd get cold. And I don't know. I don't expect a T-shirt from them, but like some type of cover, animal hide or something. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what's confusing when they say they're just like little scavengers. I'm like, well, you mean none of them can hunt? Like it seemed in the original one, it just seemed like they're more primitive. Like they're, they can still sort of get things. They're just, not that great with tools and stuff, but they could probably hunt. I'd assume they knew where to go find food.
Yeah,
Do stuff.
that one. Oh, that idea always annoys me because like even if we were like primitive to the point of going far back enough where we were just like other animals, like animals have communication in some
Well, a
way,
lot of animals are smart.
and they have hierarchies. There's always like alpha male or males. There's coalitions. Especially with like apes. Like if you want to look at like chimps as like a lesser form of the human mind, they're super smart still, and they have politics and they have coalitions, and if you're like a
Yeah.
tyrant, they fucking group up and kill you.
Like if anything, I thought the humans would have some form of the old ways that chimps were. The aggression, the alpha male, something like that. Wouldn't that be kind of interesting to have that be flipped? Like where they've gone, they're not as intelligent anymore, but they still can use tools to a degree, like like other ones used to. They can hunt in groups, sort of. They're still like the predatorial. Like if anything, now you don't want to get ambushed by a group of humans. If you're out by yourself,
Yeah, like
something like that would be. I think that'd be good, but I don't think they want to do that because they think that the humans look too smart. I don't know.
yeah, it's
But they're wearing their genitals too. Why? Why would that if not have other hide on to keep warm?
well, especially her, like she's wearing, it's basically a tank top, but it's like a weaved primitive like tank top, so it looks like it's made out of some sort of cloth or something. So like, and it looks like they're wearing more than just hide. Hide's kind of simple, just cut and tie, but to like weave cloth or whatever, like
It's a skill.
yeah, it's very confusing trying to piece out how smart humans are or what they should be for this world. I get that the virus has like made us dumb and primitive, but
it's like, but the basic things are we don't have fur, we get cold. What do you do to get warm? Animals are warm. You use them to get warm. I don't know. It's small things like that would have made it way better to me. Like it more immersive in their sci-fi world, more attention to detail to have it be distinctive as well from other versions where they tell this type of story.
yeah, that just little things like that frustrate me.
And I guess it's also because this is good. but it could be way better. Like, they have the potential.
Yeah, and so when they're after her specifically, like they're looking for a specific human, I'm like, oh, okay, what the fuck's going on with her? Why is she special? And then at some point after this chase sequence and they get away, like she called out to Noah. I think maybe she said his name. So
Yeah,
like,
she just
huh?
said no. Ah! Said it quickly. Yeah.
And so with her talking, I was assuming it's going to be like the original Planet of the Apes, where it's like a man
No.
cannot speak like ape.
Oh, I was literally just going, please don't be a time traveler. Please don't be a time traveler. Please don't be a time traveler. Like, I was just saying that in my head until she reveals what it is. I'm like, okay, good. I
Yeah,
just
so
don't
she's
want it to
from
be
a
the same.
base. It turns
Yeah.
out she's from a base. And so there's like a pocket of humanity that has not been infected or has in a short amount of time overcome the complications.
And they
But
kept enough of the history passed on to the current
yeah.
generation.
And so I was watching a video, apparently, because they have a little tease in the first movie, Rise, that there's like a ship going to Mars,
Yes,
which was
astronaut. Yeah.
meant to be, I think, a reference to the original film of like space travel, and then our travelers go through a wormhole and end up
Some setup
on future Earth with ape in control and humans devolved. And so that's where you would think that was going to go. Is like, in some way, this is a prequel to the original Planet of the Apes story. And then it turns out, no, this is a whole new retelling of that original layout. But someone is in this video is like, this is like they might be the Martian colonizers that have like returned, and so they have like a pocket. But then there's another pocket in Fort Wayne, Indiana, that talks to them at the end. So
yeah, which I was glad to have, because I'm just like, I don't want you to start trying to like fall into some type of placement with the originals, please. Like, I'm enjoying the organically grown direction.
yeah, and so I mean, we're way fast forwarding this point, but the reason I'm like, I give this movie some leeway is because this is a setup for human ape advanced conflict to maybe rekindle like where we were in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes into war.
Yeah, which hopefully that'll be more intriguing with.
And so I'm wondering if because of her interaction with Noah, that she, because she has a gun and she's like ready to shoot him, probably out of the bigger picture of like, well, we need to take out, the smartest apes we need to like take out for like she seems very much a human supremacist, which is cool. I like that.
I liked her answer being, I don't know, instead of like, yeah, sure, totally fine. I know, I liked the honesty of, I really don't know if we can. We might have to fight someday.
But yeah, so it turns out she is essentially on a mission. She was part of a bigger, I guess you call it, pack of humans, a group, whatever, that was trying to find this base that when we meet Proximus, he is sort of like a theocratic leader over this group, and they enslave other apes for his goal of making a kingdom. And he wants to acquire whatever intelligence and weaponry or whatever
he wants to
is
evolve
in the vault of humans, and to industrialize humanity or apes further. He wants to eradicate humans because he is aware of their history. He has a human guy that's translating, which is weird. It's weird that he's got this human he's relying on to teach him stuff from books.
Yeah, like why would he believe everything he says?
Well, no, you think he would make him start teaching apes to read.
I agree. I was a little conflicted with why they included this guy as this thing and not utilize him, and how I think you obviously would. Unless he wants all the apes to be dumber than him.
Yeah,
but then he said he likes Noah for being clever, which he wasn't, but he said that's why he liked him. It's like, wait a second. So do you want everybody to be dumber than you or smarter? Like,
yeah,
I don't get the view really what he wants.
Yeah, he's trying to make like a legacy, and
he's like, I'm only immortal. I'm a mortal ape. I'm a mortal ape.
He's like, yeah, he's trying to have his footnote in ape history of advancing apes, and so he's aware that humans have done great things, made great works, and so he wants to like take that and apply it to apes, which is like, yeah, cool. Why aren't you making the guy that reads books to you educate your apes so that they can be independent, and you can start,
But I also think it's kind of weird that he has the human. Like I think it'd be kind of funny to have a scene where he's teaching apes, and he's like, and when the ape Caesar, or not, a different example, like replacing anything that involves the word human and changing it to ape or something.
That would have been cool to reference the old movies, because like you find out the orangutans, they're in control of like religion and law, and they all know of the truth. They're all spreading this fake religion about the
Yeah,
divine inspiration of ape kind over man and the rest of
yeah.
the world.
Abe Lincoln, was president of the United States back in the day.
Yeah, so like that's a cool twist. This kind of atheistic view of religion in the original film, to demonize religion and its grasp on human history. That was a cool twist or little wrinkle in the story. And you think they would go like echo that in some way in this film? And
Yeah, nice homage, and also not be copying it for the reveal. Just having it as something there
yeah,
because he's
have them
got a
start
human that
like,
can read. And he's trying to get them to be inspired by the history.
yeah, because like you would think at the worst they would be assuming the ruins they walk through and uh are overgrown. They're like, wow, apes used to make great things. What happened to us? Why can't we make skyscrapers like we used to out of metal? We're making like tree skyscrapers, like
Yeah, and they suck.
uh yeah, like there's a lot
But
of angles they could go where it's like they clearly have such limited inspiration from the other films.
I honestly also, having Marcus, is he Marcus or Rocco? What the fuck?
Rocco's the orangutan.
Rocca, the orangutan. So I thought the idea was to have his memory, his recalling, his teachings of Caesar to be the more accurate ones, and then have the ones from Proximus be more like, Caesar conquered humanity. We were enslaved. We were opposed by humans, but the great Caesar died. The great Caesar died trying to win our freedom for the planet, and because of Caesar's efforts, that's why we are dominant or something. Like, you think that's what it would be more of, and it's like, that's why we got to continue to ape together strong. His interpretation of that is, we were strong enough to overthrow humanity, which is what you can almost see backed up in the first Rise of the Apes anyway, with the Golden Gate Bridge and shit.
Yeah, man, yeah, this movie's so frustrating because like, oh, there's so much here you could play with, and then it's like you totally missed it. You totally missed so many opportunities and angles to play with. That, like, again, the 1968 movie is so fucking smart for retooling the story that they got the film rights to and had to like completely kind of overhaul what that story was.
Yeah.
And they're so smart about it. They got like basically Vietnam protesters with these like dumb kids and like, yeah, no war, quit being war apes. Like, like
Right, the protest. That's great. College campus protests again. Jesus. But no, I thought it would have been interesting. So, okay, this is something that pisses me off again a little bit. So what are the apes doing outside of the vault exactly? What are they doing? They show them like moving sand or something.
I think they're moving like gunpowder or
No, the on the gate, yes, but then there's like other apes like around.
I
This
really
is a
have no
problem.
idea what the fuck they're doing in that ship. Like, they apparently live in the ship, but then they also have their own like huts or whatever
No,
in
it's
this like
like
ape city.
This is something movies need to fucking get their fucking shit together with. If you're gonna have them be slaves or like doing what you want to show, oh, the poor enslaved ones. Oh no, they're having to do hard work and they're oppressed. I don't know. Have them do something that makes sense, like transporting water or like moving logs to like a campfire area, or they're building something. Like, I don't know. Like, they're always just like moving rocks and dirt. It's like, the only thing they ever show them do. They did that in Godzilla Kong. They're like just chipping away at rocks underground,
what?
digging to go up. I don't know. And they show this in other things too, and like Rings of Power. I mean, I guess they were kind of digging tunnels because the orcs suck at being in the sunlight, I guess. So that's why they're going. I don't know. There's always just like oppressed scenes and that they want to show that, oh no, they're like being forced to do things, but they're never doing anything.
The Nazi bad
sense.
guys because they're making work camps.
It's just like they're not like making they're not making like, you know, vegetable gardens or like farming, or they're not doing something that you'd think would be useful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny actually. Yeah, like slavery, like this you know, scar on the history of America. It's like, yeah, we mass enslaved Africans to farm. That was their main task, was farming. They were the laborers of the farmlands. You know, it was purposeful and it had a like net positive to sustain. It's like, what the fuck? In War of the Apes, like they have them toiling in a camp because they're using the apes to fortify the walls for an upcoming battle with
yeah, they're
other
moving rocks
entity
to
of
build a
humanity.
defense for another opposing group. That made sense for that, to move rocks and stuff. That made sense. Yes. They're like, yeah, they're entrenching themselves essentially for an upcoming battle. It's something that really, it kind of peeves me off the more I see the attempts, and it's always the same effort level of like no effort.
Yeah.
But like in Old Yeller, they show the boy is running wild trying to, you know, he's trying to get the donkey and he's trying to get the paths right in the thing. And then he's at night trying to protect the vegetables or the cornfield from being like overrun by raccoons and stuff. Like, I don't know, they show him doing a lot of work, like a lot of work. You know, he's got to round up hogs. He's got to, you know, get the cow that got loose. Like,
and he's not even a slave. It's just like living.
he gets run wild, and I'm like, yeah, that's you don't have to. I don't know, because you know the intention that they keep on doing this is to show the poor imprisoned apes, but I'm like, I don't understand why. So I thought the fact that they're doing it against their will is the problem, not, oh, they're like doing heavy labor. And I don't know, like you could be a slave and like sew and like I give people bads or something. Like I don't know. It's just a peeve I have now, and I just just another one in a series that's so good. It just annoys me. It's a small thing. It's not even a big deal. It's just, to me, it's a big deal though.
Yeah, like even in the last Planet of the Apes original, they're being experimented on, and they're like second class. They're literally like in a prison system, and they're just servant animals. You know?
Yeah, they're like, let's look at their medical advances. Let's see how they breed. Let's see how they can behave. Can any of them be trained?
Their
what are their
sentience
uses?
is ignored because they're not human, so they clearly aren't worth anything. And there's a divide of like class with the apes and humans in that movie. And so it's like, it makes sense that like Caesar leads a revolt.
No, exactly. Well, in that, and in War for the Planet of the Apes, it was humans forcing apes to do it. And I don't know. You think there'd be some other conflict with the fact that Proximus is doing this to apes that would bug Noah, but you just can't, I don't know. It's treated like it's, oh, you know, other apes. You know, that makes sense.
Well, you know what this is,
know.
Ricky? You know what this is? This is the subtle Democrat leftist, you know, cookie cutter narrative. It's, you know, Sparta's cool because they fought Persia, but ultimately in any other context they would show Sparta, especially because like the Nazis particularly like Sparta. And so there's like a stain on the like history of Sparta like in the world because of the Nazi like taking on trying to like, you know, retool that identity or that like whatever you want to call it. There's this demonization of Sparta in his history. And the reason I invoke like Democrat, because you see like the talking point, the mantra of like an attack on our democracy. They love democracy. They love mob rule. All right.
Yeah.
and it's virtuous. Athens is always the good guys of Greece because they were democratic. They didn't have kings. They voted. That's like peak virtue is democracy. And so Proximus is bad guy because even though he has like bigger altruistic plans for ape kind, he clearly has no problem with the expenditure of individual apes for the greater good. So he's a bad guy because he's trying to be industrial and he's like, forcing work of other apes versus the harmony of nature good guy Noah with his eagles. Like that's what annoyed the fuck out of me in this movie was that obvious leftist child
Yeah.
view of the world. Like,
Well, they could have done it better, which is dumb. Like, if anything, if you want to show a contrast, force the nature apes to do slave work, like within the steel confines of something. Like, completely isolate them from the nature or something, and make them have to deal with that.
Yeah, make them brutalistic and
if
stuff.
you're gonna try to do that, I don't know. I feel like it's a small issue, but it's a bigger issue technically also because this is also what is their perception on the planet, Proxima specifically. Like he a lot of them speak like they know that there's a whole planet for one, and like the whole planet is like full of ape rule, I guess, or is it just to their area that they're referring to?
I don't know.
Like
300
with
years in the
rule,
future, it seems like there would be like a lot of pockets of ape control and tribes.
so like I thought there'd be, if anything, I thought this was potential. Like they're gearing up for other ape on ape conflict or something. Not just humans. I mean, I'm okay if they have issues with humans still, but I don't know. I was interested in the concept of like have this little innocent village get pulled into the society of the other apes that are at war with each other, kind of like War for the Planet of the Apes. How they're getting drawn into the human war with each other, but it's like there's already the contrast here where if anything too, it's like that disease that made apes smarter made apes just like people, and
Sony,
maybe that's what he's going through.
You shut the fuck up with your retarded points.
Sparta was gay and evil.
Sparta was key.
Indeed.
Sparta destroyed Athens. That's what democracy gets you. Destroyed. Yes. Democracy is a fucking mistake.
Yeah, I guess I can move on from the slavery thing.
It really does fucking annoy me because it's like this is preying on the collective sentiment that you have to agree with. Like, well, clearly slavery is bad, and so anyone that does slavery in any work of art is clearly the bad guy of the story. And it's like that cookie cutter view of the world is so stupid. But then like they ignore like Islamic slavery of Africa. Like
I guess I'm just glad they didn't show one of the Roman apes. Let's call them Roman apes. Like shove one of them and be like, ho ho ho, you don't get food because I'm an asshole. Like it's like, no, you need your workers to like be able to function. Otherwise you don't get your thing done. I hate it when movies do that. I guess I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm glad they didn't do that because that is such an annoying, retarded trope of like, well, yeah, we need to beat the shit out of the workers for no reason. If anything, there's usually a reason, like for misbehavior, rather than just I'm a dick,
Yeah. Well, I really hate that stuff in like slave history telling.
It's like they did that in Godzilla Kong. Like, the mean ape pushed the nice ape over, and Kong don't like that, so he's gonna step up and shut the fuck up with that shit. It's like the save the cat meme of heroism. Like, the cat's in a tree, you gotta save it. It's like, yeah, that's step one. We know. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's
move us on to something else in the story if you want, because I can bitch about this more.
Yeah. So Proximus turns out this facility that they're around is a vault of humanity, and that there was pockets of humanity that went underground or in confines.
She even says the government specifically split into two, and one went underground and died, I guess.
And so she, for whatever reason, needs to get something out of this vault.
She
So
says
she
a
knows,
book.
yeah, so she knows a way in that is not the door that she's like, you are never going to open this door, Proximus.
Gonna go in the back door.
And so she finds like ventilation to go through. And it's all abandoned. No one's. I'm surprised there wasn't even like human skeletons or.
Wait. Before that, sorry, before that, they're trying to like gather gunpowder at night to blow up later, I guess, and then guy from Jurassic Park 3 comes in and he's like, "Hey, you guys being stupid, huh? Because Proximus is cool."
William H Macy.
Yeah,
his name is
I
Trevathan.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey guys, Proximus is cool now, so stop being a bitch." And then she's like, "No, be with us." And then he's like, I'm gonna go tell." And
Trevathan
then
has a weird perception that like our time is over, so I'm just going to like get what I can out of like ape rule and know my place, and you should too. And May has the perception that like this everything that they're trying to get is for us, and we should not like lay down and accept our fate. And we should like restake our claim of control of the planet.
yeah, which again that confuses me. I'm like, so how much of this has to does anybody know what the state of the rest of the planet is in any way? How would they know?
Oh, I think they're trying to like get everything back online to
Well, I know.
recolonize the planet.
I'm hoping they can at least answer the question of like, do you even know what the state of the world is at this point, or, I don't know. There could be things totally different on the other side of the planet, entirely different for all they know. And how would they know? Like if they don't have technology up to communicate anymore, and they don't use bird messaging like I assumed they would, with what they establish.
Yeah.
But no, so then she kills him instead of letting him. He was gonna go tattle. I was like, I'm a tell, and then she's like, no, fuck you, and then she chokes him out, and the other apes just look at her like, oh no, she's crazy, and
yeah, I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
supposed to be a shock to the system. Like, oh, they're willing to kill each other, which is like what we
You're trying to get your
don't do unless
we,
you're obviously bad apes. Bad apes kill apes.
Yeah, but it's like it's also confusing though because the logic is like, well, of course. So hey, buddy, dude, guy, Noah, if that guy goes and tattles, you're all fucked, and so is your village. Like, what do you?
Yeah, they just seem to be sitting there, and it's like only
what are you gonna do? You didn't do anything. You didn't voice anything while she was choking him. Like you just stood there. You're just as guilty, if anything, fuckers. You can't tell me you can't tear this woman off of this guy. You're 4 times stronger than a fucking human. I don't know.
Well, I
It's
think it's a justified kill on her part.
No, I agree, but they have a problem with it. They don't tell us that they have a problem with it, but that adds to their problem with, or that he voices later. But then, you just do it for you, and you don't care. You kill each other. You just want to control everything. And this was like one of those seeds for
it. Yeah,
I feel like this could have been handled better. Again,
that's like the Democrat. This is where like wokeism is like obvious throughout Hollywood, implicit. It's like this very juvenile view of the world.
Well, because they do this in the trilogy where like Caesar has to kind of make the tough calls of like, do I kill a fellow ape or not, type of thing. And it's like have this character Noah probably going through that same sort of quandary, and he just doesn't. Like I'd assume he'd be trying to break them up, and then have the guy yell, and he's got to like cover his mouth, and then gets bit or something. It's like, okay, you're running out of options of things to do, and like you're risking your chance of being discovered and everything getting fucked, and your whole village being probably going to get killed at some point. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like he didn't really think about any of that. It was just ignored.
No, it's like in War of the Planet Apes, Caesar finds the ape that like turned on him and is being a mule for him now.
Yeah, he chokes him out. He kills him there.
Accidentally suffocates him out of self-preservation, and that
he's
like
trying to not be discovered because he's going to alert all the other guys that are right outside the tent.
Yeah, and that like really affects him that he on accident killed an ape.
Yeah, ape don't kill ape, and then he's fearing that he's becoming like Koba and like having his dark side show through, and he's like, oh man, are we we're supposed to be better than humans. Like, what the fuck are we do? There's something there, and it's like with this, there's just like it wasn't even pretended to be presented really. It was just like, oh, you just missed it. Okay, why are the friend apes there? Fuck them. Why are they even in the story? They waste the camera time, so I could tell.
Yeah, man,
The more we talk about it, the more disappointed I am in the movie. Again, there's still things in it that are okay and that are fine, and there's still some respect to it. But again, I think I'm more angry because of how good the rest of the series is. It annoys me to see them just kind of. It seems like they kind of kicked their feet up a little on this one and didn't really like go that hard into it as they would for the other ones to make it really sharp.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Goalposts in here earlier. So he says, "Lions and elephants are forced to participate in carnivals. Justice must be had." I don't give a fuck.
I don't know.
Human supremacy.
Okay.
Don't
That's
care.
fine. Yeah.
I lean heavy into like the biblical view of the world and animals that
it's like elephants are like intelligent. I get it. So there's like that aspect and stuff. But
yeah, they're.
But I feel like that's
animals
irrelevant.
are here for
to our conversation about this movie, though. But
well, it's just funny because like, yeah, I mean, I guess in a way it's cruel to subjugate these animals that are meant to like roam vast square mileage, but at the same time, we give them a steady diet. They don't have to worry about predation. So it's like it's kind of a nice trade-off. Like, hey, just do some tricks for us, and you can live without fear of death every day.
It's like, oh, let's release the lion and let's have him in his normal habitat. Oh, most lions get killed usually by other lions and other prey or something. But anyway, with the movie, yeah. So he kills that guy. I had to cut you off before from going into the base because of this little human scene where she kills.
Yeah, they go on the base and they're kind of like, "Wow, humans built this! Oh my god!" Like, there's a shock there, and they find books in like a little school area, and they see it like, "Oh, apes were in cages."
And they notice other animals too, and so he's like, "You keep on controlling everything, huh?"
Which is like that wouldn't have been how I would have written that. I would have wrote it as like, "Oh wow, y'all were in complete control, and we were just fucking animals in cages."
Yeah, like we were the dumb scavengers. We
were nothing, and this world was yours, and now everything's gone topsy-turvy and you're fighting to just stay alive. That would, I don't know, that would it's like when
because they've already done this angle to death.
In the first movie, it's the twist is like, oh, they find like the little mama doll, and it's like, oh, humans can talk, or they could, everything we've been told.
I mean, the doll say mama was significant. It's like, mama, yeah, it's like this is a human thing and it spoke.
It's like everything that we've been taught has been a lie.
Yeah.
And then they find out it's not just like lack of knowledge. Like, no, it's a lie maintained by the religious order of the orangutans in control. They keep, for some reason, they keep passing this knowledge down and then lying to ape kind about the reality that they are not divine from their god. Yeah. What's up, Pop Cotton? Yeah, I was instantly, after watching, I'm like, man, this really was a letdown for the greats. The complete Planet of the Apes, whatever you want to call it, the legacy, the franchise, every film is good in some way or another for me. The nuance that every film has an antagonist, but there's no villains, in my view, in the Planet of the Apes movies. What you would call a villain, like every villain makes sense. Proximus makes sense. Like his overall like goal makes complete sense to me. He's not a bad guy. They write him so easily, like, well, clearly he's a bad guy, and it's like, I know. Like, yeah. I wish they would do like Planet of the Apes, like Game of Thrones, where it's like,
yes,
political, especially with apes. Apes are naturally political. Chimps, especially, are naturally political animals, especially the males. And you have a political animal that gets increased intelligence in an
And they have like
apocalyptic
super
world.
strength and can climb. They have other abilities.
Yeah, they
compared to
still
human.
have all their like human or all their animal ingenuity and strength and whatnot, but then give them intelligence with that. And it's like I feel like they would like someone like Proximus would pop up and start trying to like build great works.
Like if anything, I thought he'd be looking at human, like the boat, for example, and be like, "Can we do that?
Yeah, like look at
Can we do
like
this?"
Egypt. Egypt, you got a primitive time of history, like what 5,000+ years ago, and someone sits down in Egypt's like, all right, we figured out how to like raise crops, and we've got a pretty good time record keeping with looking at the stars. You know what? I'm a god, and you're gonna make a big fucking monument to me. Uh, like that's the pyramids and sphinxes and everything. Like they're crazy complexes. It just makes sense. Like once you build infrastructure, you get this evolution of like grandiosity. And so someone like I feel like there'd be more Proximuses in the world
No, I
that's
agree.
like that reach this pinnacle of like, all right, we've hit this peak.
They've mastered their region and they've got to expand.
You got to expand, and then they build more in-depth monuments and whatnot, and more in-depth society and art and literature. And yeah, I think they really missed the mark not having Trevathan like actually teach apes, not just be like a fucking I don't know, a little like lapdog for Proximus by him lonesome telling him Roman stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Especially since the way he was talking to the crowd, it seemed like he wants them to like the same thing he does. It's like I feel great after saying "What a wonderful day" and getting them hyped and pumped. It's like, why are they pumped? Why are they pumped?
yeah, and they never really show. I mean, you see like crowds of them, but they never really show like his interaction with normal apes that are like his people.
Yeah, which is what makes this come off as childish, because it's like, oh, you're just he's like you said, he's the big ruler, meanie bad guy because he's got slaves and he's eating food. He's eating food. That's pretty evil. When you're eating food and he's just sitting in a chair and eating food. Fuck, what a rich asshole, right? that's
Yeah,
that's the implicate. That's the imagery they always show, like for rulers that are mean, is that they have like a table and a
decadence.
chair and they can eat food and like sit, my boy, and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
selfish decadence. Yeah,
which is
it's a
like,
trope.
yeah, I wish they do more than that. Like, what if they actually even made him compassionate to the apes that he likes or something, and show brotherhood or something?
Yeah, I
Like,
think
what else
you do better if you have more
with
nuance.
the gorilla? Be like, yes, brother, or something. But it seems like, I don't know. Again, a lot of the characters aren't characterized very well. They're very surface level
Yeah, you
characterized.
see this like fucking rabid devotion to the cause with the gorilla, and then you never see him interact with Proximus. He
Like, if
just
anything, I thought he'd have
summons.
like
He just
introspective and dialogue.
Yeah, he just summons fucking Noah. And you're like, all right, there you go.
And
Go to dinner
like,
with
Noah,
Proximus.
you show such disrespect. How do you not know the history? It's like, I don't know the history. Well, this is why you got to listen. This stuff's very important. Or so, I don't know. Like, if you want to honor something, and he's like, but I honor the birds. He's like, well, we honor the history. Like some, I don't know. I'm trying to drum up something that draws interest here.
Yeah, you think he would invoke Raka and what he's like taught him about Caesar? And be like, ah, yes, I know of his order and their pacifist view of the world and this incredulous idea of harmony with the humans.
Well, and they keep on like idolizing human achievements but not doing anything on their own. And we got Proximus who wants to do his own. He wants to learn from the humans and then do his own, which is above what the order wants.
Yeah, like he's got this awareness of like if we don't like take care of humans, they could like rebuild and take us back over. And like that's why I say Game of Thrones, because like even like obviously at least the way he's portrayed. Like he's a bad guy with Tywin. Tywin's bad because he's pragmatic and kind of unfeeling, but he is a thorough ruler. You know, he's like, oh, you're seeing this kind of like Boromir, Aragorn, like code of honor through Ned and stuff, and like they clearly wouldn't make these kind of moves that are devious. And he's like, oh, I'm a coward for killing 12 people at a dinner versus slaughtering 10,000 soldiers on it with your honor system. It's like, oh, like I've created a net positive for the kingdom by my little devious
less
ploy.
families have to go without fathers and stuff.
Yeah, it's like yeah, your little honor system will wreak havoc with our diplomatic relations of war.
Your honor is nice and neat one-on-one, but anything beyond that in terms of battle is useless.
Yeah, like, versus if I just like deviously kill a few people at dinner, which is a shame to the gods or whatever, but net positive for humanity. Like this is more effective ruling in a way.
I'd love to see this as a TV show, Game of Thrones style, Planet of the Apes. Yeah, I would. That's all I want. I guess that's why. We just got done watching Breaking Bad for me for the first time, and they take mundane moments and make it intense somehow. And then in this, there's things that look spectacular, but was kind of boring. And I didn't think it was going to be boring. I saw Shadowversity post a video where he's like boring on the thing, and I was like, "Oh, we're going to have the opposite opinion, I'm sure."
Yeah, he clearly doesn't know anything, but it's like, that's the worst thing. You tell me I'm agreeing with Shadowversity. It's fucking awful. I guess God has allowed him this one insight.
Now when it's like, oh man, I don't know. There's something about this where like it would have been interesting too to see like the apes attempting. I'd be okay if in this first film here for this newer section of the series, if they're trying to build things up pretty slow, that's fine with me. But like I'd like to see more attempts of like they're trying to have some type of water system, they're trying to forge steel, they're trying to forge weapons, they're trying to get themselves out of sticks and just climbing trees.
And I see what you're saying is
build buildings that are incorporated for apes to climb and live in that are big, whatever. Even if those are made of wood.
That's just the colonialism that has impacted your brain. Unfortunately,
combine steel
that.
and wood in their buildings to have the nature part and the industrial part combined or something to show like they've learned from how ape was and how man was and combine the two positives of something. I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of what
there is no positive here, with the patriarchal white supremacist colonial view of things, Ricky.
But that's how like everything was
deconstruct shaped. That.
But I mean
need to be of the earth like the noble Indians.
But they're boring.
Well, yeah. Like when you're pragmatic, you're like, well, like as nice as it is to be harmonious with nature, how many more people died way too early because they didn't like industrialize medicine, which you do that after you've sustained industrializing farming and weaponry and fortifications. So it's like you, whatever like necessary evil downsides you have with industrialization, you also have progress. And that again, this is the juvenile view of like hippie Democrat F slurs from Hollywood is these cookie cutter childish views of the world. And that's what frustrates me is like that's I feel like James Gunn is aware, or not, Cameron with Avatar, that like the Indians really fucked themselves by not trying to be more white in the sense of industry to combat.
Well, and they show in the sequel that the avatars are like the Na'vi are fucked if they don't have guns. Like they're just gonna die because they showed what happens pretty much.
Yeah, and that movie ends up just being like one little battle with like a whaling ship that wasn't even meant to.
It was like a mining combative. It was a mining ship of people that had some extra weapons, pretty much, and a couple soldiers. And it's like, now imagine if they wanted to fight you. Yeah. So with the Planet of the Apes, I guess that's just another thing that annoys me. That like I would think they would be showing some type of progression like that to show them realize, okay, we have our ways. How much I would want the concept to be, how much can we keep to our ways of peace and nature while improving? Can we evolve and keep the balance at the same time? And because this is a world that overlaps, it's overgrown over the old human world. I would almost think there'd be an integration of old human stuff with their daily lives. And maybe I'm thinking, I guess, like Little Mermaid, like she's like using a fork to comb her hair or something. Part of me thinks that'd be kind of, they'd utilize some things that are left around to their benefit.
Yeah, Goalpost is always coping. The Nerd Way, one of our friends of the channel, he had a post that went on Goalpost today, so that was interesting. So yeah, Goalpost is still coping. Surprisingly, Yaira, it's gonna close in a couple weeks, I think, and it's still only at 1.3 million.
No one ever wants to be Amish after seeing actual Amish. No, I agree.
No, see, I disagree. Like the
Ish.
Amish kind of like the American version of like the Afghans, where it's like I really envy their simplistic life. Like they're worried about real everyday things for the most part. Like they have religion, it's codified and kind of limits, like has like an enforced limitation on their progress, but ultimately they're worried about practical things, even though they do have like the evolved culture of religion. And same with like the Afghan people. I envy them some ways, but then it's like, well, no, it's like clearly there's a lot of value in like the Western way of living. I just think we're so decadent and we're just so aloof to everyday danger that like they're exposed to every day as like a reality. So it's like that's the balance you gotta find. It's not like industry or nature. It's like really like death being at your doorstep. That's why the Greeks are such an interesting, and the Romans by extension too, are so interesting because like they're so evolved mentally and ahead of the pack and front runners, and yet they never even made a kingdom. They're just all city states fighting each other, pillaging, warring every year. So it's like they had like a balance of like their animal and just living for sustenance, but then they had the evolution of art and literature. So they're like reaching for the stars in various ways as well. And that's what you gotta do. It's like the synergy of nature and progress.
Well, yeah, when he stumbled upon the telescope, I thought that was going to invoke like, what is that out there? Like, what is that in the sky? In the night, I don't usually see that. Those were bright and beautiful or something. I don't know. Like, just I'm digging for anything to give him character because they don't really do that at all. Like he just kind of coasts around.
Yeah, it seems like he's never actually been trained on the eagle shit. And then in the movie, he's like just full bore Luke Skywalker. I'm totally in tune with the eagles. And not only do I summon the one that's been taunting me this whole time, but like I summon like a whole fucking I don't know what you call a herd of like eagles, like
a flock.
A flock of eagles. There you go. Flock. Literally summons a flock.
Well, so there's this one eagle that belonged to his father. There's this eagle that belonged to his father that right away bunks him on the head in the beginning of the movie. And I was like, he's gonna end up bonding with that one. Just watch, because it doesn't like him, and then it like keeps on bugging him or following him around the movie, but not chilling with him. And then at some point, it's like, oh, you're my friend now too. I like you. And then later, he's like, when Noah gets his ass kicked by the Proximus, he's like starts singing the song that I guess they sing to the birds when they're hatchlings.
I did think that was funny. I did think it was funny that they didn't go with the trope of like, oh, the bad guys lingered at the bottom before the escape, and that's like the final hurdle. It's like, oh no, he actually made it out with everybody, and you're the last guy out, and he's kicking your ass. Like I thought that was just a funny little like, oh, they didn't go that route.
Nice. Right. Yeah, no, but then he summons not only his eagle, but then like a dozen of them start all attack. So I thought the point of them singing was more ape together, strong unity. Yes, it's to the falcon, but I just thought it was more of a symbolizing they're working together. And
yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
But then no, literally the Falcons all assault him, like, I summon Falcon Swarm, and then it scratches him and pecks at him a lot. A whole bunch of Falcons attack Proximus until they knock him off the cliff. The Eagles alone they take him out. And it's just like, okay, this is like Ryan Johnson level of like, what if like fucking Eagles took him out instead or something? It's like, what?
It's
or like
it's like eagle powers come to me.
Or they're like, how in Lord of the Rings the Eagles? How about
the Eagles are here?
How about the Eagles kill the villain instead? How about Eagles kill? They kill fucking Sauron or something.
Oh
here,
my god!
Essentially,
the lamest fucking part of the trilogies. Oh, the Eagles!
Like, I don't know. So and these Eagles, they just have the Eagles kill them, and then they're like, oh yeah, you see, Ape didn't kill Ape. That was like what I took from that. I'm like, no, but you told them to kill him. I guess What do you mean? Yes, you did. And honestly, the gorilla, you killed the gorilla too. No, you didn't like literally like deal the blow, but you led him into a trap and let him drown. You killed him. You
could say he killed himself with his hate.
Yeah, but you can also say that he killed him. So
no, yeah, it's definitely the Batman begins argument, where it's
it's like you could have saved him.
I'm not going to kill you.
You intentionally led him here to die, so you did kill him. Yes. If I lay a trap and then you fall into the trap and die, it didn't randomly appear here. But anyway, he doesn't seem to struggle with any of that either, which is why my biggest annoyance with this whole movie is that our character Noah doesn't really have an arc. He doesn't really have characteristics that make him different from any other character. There's nothing about him that is interesting. There's like a culture aspect. There's no art or specific thing he does that makes him identifiably like unique of any kind, or just
this movie's really bad.
I was just like, man.
All the other movies have been good at like showing an in-depth view of the antagonist and whatever aspect they're trying to control as opposition. Like in the third one, when they go through the wormhole and they're in our time, with the baby chip, and there's like the guy's like, we need to kill that thing.
Well, the apes that were there were horrified to tell them the future because of how they would react to knowing that information, because they would react probably bad too if it was reverse.
And he figures out, it's like, we need to kill these things because they will destroy us. And he was right.
Yes, that is what your future held.
And so it's like you have as an audience, you have a tug of war of like, well, like, I'm a human, like these are like the heroes of the story, but I'm a human, so there's like self-preservation that is like reasonable to have. It's not even like selfish, just like, well, yeah, like I don't want to die, and same with Woody Harrelson, especially in War of the Planet of the Apes. Dawn, Gary Oldman, I guess, was the bad guy, kind of,
he was gonna try to kill Caesar.
Yeah, well, it's like he's like the unifier. If you take him out, then you can like disorganize the apes and use that to your advantage. So it's like for their good, like, it makes sense. The first one's not even really a villain. It's just like the virus is coming,
when they have the fight on the bridge, it's just there's a whole bunch of wild animals out loose, crossing a bridge. We're trying to corner them so they don't hurt any civilians. That's all that is, really. There's no villain in that moment. Malfoy's not even a villain, really. He's just an asshole worker, I guess.
Yeah.
No, so I don't know, but all of them do aspects that like showing characters and character development and unique things enough for them.
There's really nothing to root for Noah.
I don't care about Noah. He's not a warrior. Not good with there's nothing about him at all that stands out in any way that I can say that he has or does.
Yeah, like they try to set this up where it's like clearly May is like being devious and not.
Yeah, so he's having trustworthy issues now because she like doesn't tell him the full truth of things all the time.
Yeah, but like the whole time I'm watching like her plot, I'm like, yeah, I'm rooting for May. Like, as much as I love like apes, it's like, no, like in this scenario, like fucking kill them all. Like
Like and her and like all the humans' perspectives, the apes are just getting worse and worse, and are going to be a worse threat all the time. So, like, what? No.
Yeah, like I'm totally rooting for May.
And imagine if the apes had tanks now. Like, fuck no. Like,
Yeah, well, that was
they'd
like
be
when
fucked.
it turns out it's like, oh yeah, she meant to open it, and then the bomb wasn't for the door; it was to flood this place and keep it out of their hands. I'm like, oh wow, like she's sabotaging a pocket of human potential for the long-term success of humanity. I'm like, ah, cool. And then when like they're kind of at odds when she leaves, I'm like, oh man, yeah, I'm very excited to see where they take May
Yeah, I'm
and
hoping
her
that they do it
connection.
well. Hoping that they do it well going forward.
Yeah,
Hoping that they
like
don't do something lame.
yeah, again, Game of Thrones is great at like showing both sides or all the sides of like war and
Jamie Lannister,
all the
perfect
competing
example.
factions where it's like there's really no good guy. I mean, there's clearly like was it Ramsay Bolton's like the only like truly bad guy. I mean, even Cersei, she has no care about the plebes uh aside from like maintaining their position underneath her in the hierarchy. But she's not like trying to kill everybody, but she has no
She cares
problem.
that she does love her children. She loves her
She has no
family.
problem killing whoever she has to for ultimately the good of her kids,
Yes.
but she's not out to like kill everybody, So like she's probably the worst person with power in the series, but she's not like a megalomaniac, and it's understandable. Also, because she's a woman, so she's a mom, and there's no she can't lateral, she can't go down on the ladder. The only way she gets out of this is a natural death or people killing her. So like she has to maintain her status because there's no other way to go. Aside from her own ambitions, there's literally nowhere else for her to go. She has to like keep that spot or die, and that extends to her kids. And so a lot of decisions make sense for like survival. And
Yes.
so it's like even if like she's the enemy of like people we like Daenerys or Jon Snow, it's very understandable, and so you can't necessarily falter for her decisions mostly. And yeah, like that's I wish there was like an honesty instead of these like juvenile fucking liberal takes on democracy and shit. It's like why I do not get why there's like this adoration for democracy. I don't get
Yeah,
it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. They just think it'll work better all the time. Nothing ever goes wrong, but those are usually the ones that fall apart. I don't know.
Yeah, the French Revolution, that was like really great for everybody.
Well, I guess this was a thing too. Like, I didn't understand. So Proximus kept on insisting that Noah was like choosing to trust human, and I'm like, when? Like, I guess he's trying to save his clan. Really, he's not. He doesn't actually give a fuck
He's
about
like, well, you
humans.
enslave my people, and so she might give me an
The
angle
enemy of my
to
enemy is my
free them.
friend, kind of for now. But like, I'm really doing this for myself to help my people. I don't give a fuck about what her intentions are. And
Yeah.
he wanted her to flood it. She did not want to flood it. That was part of the thing. He's because he asked the question. He's like, "Can water destroy them or something? Can water make them not work?" And then it cuts away. And so that implied he wanted her to destroy it while she wanted to use it.
Huh.
But then
Okay.
she destroys it anyway, and he's like, "No." It's because his family was in there, but I don't know. They did a really bad job at like making it interesting. Any of it, and you get to the end, and they're finally showing what you and I thought of. Which is weird that they didn't have the like eagles be integrated with their society very well, but then they do at the end. At the end, they are
Yeah, it's like
a
now
little
they're
bit.
somewhat domesticating the Eagles, which is like, yeah, I feel like you would have already been there. I mean, I guess again they're trying to show like the virtue of this nature angle, which like I do like the idea of like virtuous nature adoration of society or whatever within reason. And so like having this be like, no, we don't tame the eagles because like we need to earn the bond, and so we must steal an egg and bond with it. We must leave them wild. There's a virtue to that, the challenge versus just, oh yeah, they're just like chickens now. I just got them in a box on my farm.
Yeah,
Like,
they take away their
here's
majesty
my
entirely.
eagle coop. Here's my eagle coop.
Take away their
Like,
majesty entirely.
yeah. So like, I like I don't think they thought of it in that depth, but like on accident, they've kind of fallen into why you don't domesticate the
See, no,
eagles.
I guess I was interpreting it as they could have like they should build structures, and then the eagles build their nests up there, and then that's it. Like you're not controlling what else they do with the nests. You just build the areas where they could make a nest if they want to, or something. That's what I would think.
Yeah, just a lot of missed opportunities. That's like, it's just with things that the move without even interpretation, just like the movies have obviously done from 1968 to now. This is the worst one. They're all really good. This one is fine, but it's a fucking, even the dumbest shit like Beneath the Planet of the Apes with the nuclear bomb and stuff. Some of like the inconsistencies of that story, where it's like, wait, if you can do this telepathy shit, communication, like you can't just like control the apes and keep them away. Like,
Yeah, I guess not. This only works on humans or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Besides that, it's like there's so much like chances they've taken, and interesting angles, and even with
War was
decreasing
risky.
budgets.
War was risky. War for Planet of the Apes was risky with Harrelson being like, "Yeah, I had to kill my son." Like that's a big one, and killing Caesar's kid too in that movie. That
Oh
was like some
man.
ballsy stuff.
Oh, goalposts. You silly child, you. Angus does not understand the premise of the movie. He is nitpicking small details that do not factor into the big picture. No, everything we were talking about factors into the bigger picture of like why this film is a dud, why it's like so lackluster for the legacy of Planet of the Apes.
When it's like, if you're gonna say that he doesn't understand the premise, then what is the premise? What are we not getting then? Like,
no, I get it.
Yeah, I get it too. Yeah, we've talked for 2 hours now, pretty much. So we fixate on certain things more than others, but we've pretty much gone through a lot of the story and why it doesn't hit as hard as other stories would. It accomplishes the simplest of storytelling. It accomplishes simplest things. It's not a horrible movie. It's just the least of the 8 movies.
Yeah. No, it's pretty simple. There's a fucking ambitious ape has a coalition, and this harms other apes, and so this reveals like the various religious factions post Caesar in the ape controlled world. And so his clan gets taken over and enslaved for the mechanizations of Proximus and his goals. And on the journey, he ends up teaming up with wizened monk, basically, and Raka. And then this human he's underestimated, May, who's actually completely fucking smart and intelligent, can speak. And this is a huge revelation in this world, because humans are devolved, at least widespread. And, he undermines the plans of Proximus and kind of works with untrustworthy ally in May and her knowledge, and ultimately takes out Proximus, but becomes aware of a bigger picture of the world and the bigger threat that humanity could play if they're actually intelligent, because they were in control. And so this is a groundwork film for a bigger series to spawn from it. But I just think, given the recent history and the full history of this series and this franchise, it's really disappointing.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite franchises that has so many good movies in it that there's pretty much no bad ones. And this one, I don't know, I can't say that it's a bad film, but it's definitely like it's at least 5 out of 10 range for me. It's like it's half it, but I think it's probably less than half. Honestly, like if I'm digging more into it, I feel like it's going to be below less than half. Like it's dropping every time we talk about anything with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Force Awakens. It's like, no, it's fine, but like it's just the majesty of Star Wars and then you see Force Awakens, and it's like they literally like do not understand why this is a cool franchise. Like
Well,
you can play with all the aesthetic shit you want and make new versions of the
yeah.
old, but if you don't get why it was cool in the first place, you're just making bad attempts.
I cared more about Rocco in the short time he was around compared to Noah. He's around the entire film. In fact, we spend too much time with Noah, and I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care if he's the next film or not. Like, in fact, please let's have a different character to follow that isn't Noah.
Yeah, I got to
Kinda
give
what
this
I
like
feel.
4 out of 10 ISOMs. I mean, it's still much better than ISOM, but it's like,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I feel again that part of the disappointment is that it shows so much potential to be really good, and it just and we've seen it be really good in other films, and then this one is just like, yeah, it's just they let like their little brother try to make a film after their great ones, and he's like, see, I can do a film too, and they're like, you did record stuff, that is nice, you made it look pretty, that's good.
oh, you're a big boy.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
What did it mean?
So big.
Ricky, like a little bitch that he is, started watching Better Call Saul without me, which I've seen the whole show, but we're watching Breaking Bad, and so I'm waiting to like watch that with him, and it's like, oh, I watched first 6 episodes by myself. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And he saw that, and then you're telling me someone at Subway overheard you and your friend talking about it, and so he joined in, like, oh,
yes. Which was a great organic moment with the customer, like understood what it was and just joins in. I was like, yeah, that's great.
That is hilarious because that's such a perverted joke that is hilarious and so unique.
Yeah.
And so for someone in the wall to like hear that, not get offended, but actually know it and play into it, it's like, oh wow, what a great! I wish I was there.
Yeah, and season 1 is like a few years ago now, right? That's like 10
Oh
years ago,
yeah,
probably. Better Call Saul.
I think it started like what 2017 or something like that.
Something like that. It was after Breaking Bad, I'm sure.
It just now, like a year ago, ended.
Yeah, but back to the Planet of the Apes. I'm trying to think if we skipped over anything worth talking about, but I don't think so.
No, it's totally fine, especially today's like Hollywood. But man, if you love Planet of the Apes, you've already seen all these movies, you're gonna be fucking disappointed.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where depending on how the next film is, I don't know if I'd even recommend watching this one. It's fine in terms of like again visuals. They keep that consistency. It didn't look worse or anything. There's a lot more apes to have in this, and a lot of apes in the sunlight, I guess, if that counts as like another props, because it's not dark. It's easier to have CGI look better in darkness compared to in the sunlight. There's a lot of sun in this. I think visually that kind of bugged me too a little bit. I kind of liked the like forest. You're in the dark forest, light peers in sometimes. I prefer that setting. I prefer that type of setting for the apes compared to being on the beach. There's something about that just doesn't mesh well to me.
Also, the fact that they didn't like, I was honestly hoping they would have like revealed that we're in New York, and there's the Statue of Liberty. Like I was waiting for that, or maybe down the coastline is New York, and at some point the story takes us there, and we see like, oh, I know that thing. I've seen another movie with that. That like
maybe
it's like the stupid meme Easter egg, but then it's like also it's like actually a cool in-depth Easter egg.
Well, I think that's something that would have been more in depth if like they have like, let's say it's separated from them like by water, but they can see the Statue of Liberty sticking out somewhere still, and then the apes try to build their own. The apes try to build their own version of it, like they try to make their own Statue of Liberty out of wood or something to be like, see, we're making it too, and it's like some type of monument that they could enjoy making or something. It's like, I don't know, if you're trying to have some type of significance to it.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's no difference either. Like when they touch sand for the first time, there's no reaction to it. Had these apes ever touched sand before? Like they were in the middle of the forest? Like you'd think that'd be a new sensation that they didn't focus on at all. Nope. Apes being in the water, I thought would have been kind of something too. Like, they don't swim well typically, apes. So they don't really fixate on that
let me look
aspect.
this up. I haven't looked into it myself. Let me see.
I mean, I'm sure some apes can swim in some areas. I think there's specific instances where apes have sort of learned to swim, taught themselves to for whatever reasons, but typically apes don't swim well. They're heavy, lanky, and stuff.
Okay. Let me see if I can find an article about this. This is fucking cool. And it's like little things like this is like, why are we not like, why is Planet of the Apes not like fucking with this kind of primatology angle? Dublin. I gotta fast forward real quick.
Cute.
All right, let me show this. It's little things like this that like I'll hear and then I'll start investigating.
They've figured out how to fish with spears. There's primatologists.
Wait, without somebody showing them how to fish?
No, they've imitated human beings doing it. And now they do it, but they do it independently. They're not trained orangutans. They're wild orangutan. Look at that. There's a wild orangutan.
Okay, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Well, there's these primatologists. I guess you would call them primatologists. That's the term.
That's a great
biologists. Biologists that believe that monkeys and chimps and some of the great apes are moving into the Stone Age, that they've currently entered the Stone Age. Like they're not staying what they were 100,000 years ago or 500,000 years ago, but they're actively using tools and they're experimenting with different ways to use those tools.
That idea.
That's pretty cool.
Why the fuck is that not like a huge part of Planet of the Apes?
That's what I was hinting to. That's what I was saying earlier about them, like with the Little Mermaid and like the fork for a comb. Like I don't know. I would think that they'd be trying to utilize remnants of human items and integrate them into their society in some way that they use for something.
Yeah, like maybe they find if you're talking about like maybe 50 years in the future, they find like I don't know, strokers, and they don't know what it's for, and so they're using it for something completely unrelated. So it's like a gag for the audience.
It's like this garbage can lid is what they used to eat off of, called a plate, but they don't know it's a garbage can.
Yeah, misattributions of
they're just assuming what it could be for, and it's like no, they have like I don't know, toothpicks or something. They're like, they had many people that would throw these little spears at stuff or something. Like they had tiny people that would use these little spears called toothpicks, but they're not called toothpicks. But that'd be something like that would be kind of funny, kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like hand me a tooth spear.
Well, and this is actually something too that so the chimps and gorillas. So I know that they mostly tend to eat veggie stuff, but I mean, are they omnivorous?
Yeah, so gorillas are frugivores, and so I think they have the closest dietary comparison to like our colon and stuff. And so that's why it's like, yeah, no, this whole like argument of like humans are very clearly diverse in like what we can sustain ourselves with. Like Eskimos are like extremely just carnivore, basically. If they're getting vegetation, it's probably from like the guts of animals.
Right.
So meat almost exclusive, meat and fat exclusive, basically. And you get people that live on like islands where they're eating mostly like vegetation and then some fish, But yeah, gorillas mainly like leaves and grasses, and then the problem with them in like the lowlands is they're in conflict with the borders of farmers. So there's a lot of like banana farmers. So that gorillas love ripping up the trees and eating the roots. And so it's like, how do we manage this? Because like this is what they eat, but then this is a cash crop that is, it's totally reasonable for farmers to kill these things because they're pests for their livelihoods.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like they can't eat. They eat like, most of the meat, if you will. They eat like ants or bugs.
Well, yeah, like bugs and stuff, sure. But like, I guess it relates to this movie because they focused on fish for a little bit too in this film. The eagle catches a fish and they bring it back and then they hang it up next to other fish
They're
that's
smoking
outside
them,
of its
sun-drying
head.
them.
But then some were inside the hut being with a fire on, and it just seemed like a fixation that was pointless. That they didn't even eat a fish. That the whole I don't know. There's just something of like, you fixed that thing with the fish rack before. And that was like the only thing.
I was watching. I'm like,
I don't know.
oh, like, I hear of smoking, but I've never actually looked into like what that looks like, smoking meat. And it's like, oh, it's already just smoking them in a hut with a fire.
But so I guess how would they come to that conclusion for something to do? But like, I feel like they're showing like, oh, that is a thing you can do, but like, what degrees do they learn what? I guess in this,
I think about that stuff.
Oh.
I think about that. Like, who was the first person to figure out smoking meat for like longer term preservation?
But like, people might get annoyed with us, but this is like that's why Breaking Bad's fun, because they tell you a lot of mundane things that I don't know, come off.
That would get glossed over completely. And yeah, with something like the sci-fi questioning of like, we know like all this, the intrigue of this is like, what if we turned ape intelligence to human levels? What would that world look like, or what would cause that? Like that is the entire intrigue of it. And in this movie, they like don't do anything with that base entry. Like Jurassic Park is a simple like, what if we could resurrect dinosaurs and put them in a zoo? And then you make a adventure horror problem out of that premise.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, the zoo animals got loose. It turns out the zoo animals are fucking dinosaurs that
Yes.
kill lots of people. And yeah, it's like, I think about that. I think about primitive prehistory and stuff of like, who figured out this thing, or how did we ever figure out like, yeah, let's chew a plant and then sit for an hour or two and figure out if it does anything to us. And then, all right, let's try to like eat it, or let's make a tea out of it. Like just medicine. There's a lot of trial and error. There's probably lots of death, like, oh, don't eat those. Those are poison berries. Those will kill you if you eat them. Like, well, how do they know that? Because someone ate it.
Hey, someone died.
Yeah. And it might have been multiple people before they like figured out like, oh, those berries we can't eat. We can eat the things that eat those berries, like birds or something,
Yeah.
I think of that stuff. So I think like, who was the first person to figure out smoking or like sun drying meat? Because like, I think pretty early on, you're going to figure out if you just fish for something, like, I got to like eat this or cook this pretty quick, and it's only going to last maybe another day. And then someone maybe catches a fish and then leaves it outside on accident and realizes like, oh, I can sun dry this. I can sun dry my grapes and have raisins that last a lot longer. Or if I like get my shit salty, that preserves it. Like, I think of like, who figured that out? Who figured out salting meat to preserve it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's some of the fun stuff that would have been interesting with Planet of the Apes, where you can see them almost relearn something or discover something different out of whatever. Like, I thought that's what the beginning was going to kind of show in a way. Like, they do something on accident and see something happen and then do it later. But there's like no setup with the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, the one thing I'm irritated with May being in the story is like, well, now you got a whole pocket of people, and then a second pocket of people we haven't seen yet that will understand what guns are. And so,
yeah, which is like, okay, so they're going to kill the apes then.
If they weaponize the world at some point, well, that's going to be like a cheat for the apes, because it's like very clear in Planet of the Apes, like the only like industry, like full progress they have is like they know how to make guns in Planet of the Apes. The apes do.
Yeah,
it may have been inherited from humanity, but they have maintained that practice. Versus this is going to be like, oh, it's going to be bad humans make guns again. which is like, why the fuck would I not? These things are 4+ times stronger than me. I cannot fight an ape. Like, I don't know if you've seen that video of like, there's like a orangutan mom. It's like holding the arm of a woman, but then she's like trying to like get away, but she has to be calm.
Yeah, I've
It's
seen
like,
that.
oh,
Yeah.
this like peaceful orangutan can like snap my arm out of my socket.
Yes. but no, I mean, that made me think of I thought in the movie, like I think around the part where they showed the zebras, I thought they were gonna have like a lion or something, like a predatory animal show up, and like, how does this ape deal? Are you gonna fucking fight it with your fists, or do you use it? What tools do you use? Do you know? Like, I don't know, when they discovered the armory, and I don't know, when they're in there wasn't enough awe either, in a way, when they were in there. It's kind of like, yeah, it's pretty cool. Humans, whatever, steel. There's no attention to detail on what they're stepping on or what they're interacting with in this, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, I don't know how much more there is I could add. I'm just
no, yeah, we're gonna go soon, but
myself,
some of this is inspired by, what do you call it? The chat. Elder says they treat much for higher brain function from the beginning of consumption of meat in our diets. It's really more. We're the apex predator in every ecosystem on this planet, save the deep ocean. Well, yeah, it's like the last frontier for us on the planet is the ocean, but we don't belong there. I don't think we'll ever supersede, that restriction. We're land animals, so it's like we're not unless we evolve and become like mer people, like in Raised by Wolves.
Well,
I just don't see us ever.
No, I mean, they show how the further you go in the water, the more difficult it is to sustain doing anything there. Like even if you're diving, you have to like sit and it'll take you an hour or hours to get down far enough, because you have to like adjust your oxygen or whatever levels. You have to acclimate to the pressure for something. You can't just go down there. Like,
yeah,
it's just that alone, amongst predators, amongst having a limited air supply, amongst so many factors, and being away from the sun too, I feel like would have a weird effect on.
I was just thinking about like Stone Toss was so quick on memeing the submersible, the Titanic submersible.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you've looked into it, but because they found the wreckage, or at least parts of it. So being that deep, they like got vaporized like in a second from the pressure.
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking about, I'm surprised he hasn't memed like Thanos wearing the glove and then snapping, and then it's just like the explosion of the ship. That'd be a funny sequence.
Yeah.
But no, I've heard that. I think it's not just that meat, but it's diversity of food. It's very clear, generally speaking, that intelligent animals have diverse diets, and meat, I think that's why like the Greeks were so smart, because they were mostly eating fish. That is like the sustainable meat source is fish. It's all around the whole country, not to mention whatever little freshwater pockets there are in Greece to fish as well. So I think, with having a diet full of omega-3 fatty acids, great for our brains. I think that was probably a contributing factor to their specific pocket of history. But yeah, no, the apes, especially chimps, are fairly omnivorous. They'll eat monkeys and stuff. I think that indicates their intelligence, or a factor aiding it is they're eating nuts, they're eating plants of various kinds, and they're eating bugs, and they're eating monkeys and little animals.
Yeah.
I can marine design. I'll take the 140 plus IQ marine engineers to design my sub. Thanks. Nah, you can wing it. I do appreciate the insight of what I guess one of the guys get blown up in that thing, where it's like he like Prince pushed him to take shortcuts because he's like trying to like, I don't know, I guess pioneer his enterprise or whatever with that. But Yeah, don't cut corners on like pressurized submersibles. That's like a recipe for fucking disaster. And yeah, it was powered. They steered it with like a Logitech like gaming controller. Oh yeah, let me get my little Xbox controller to navigate this submersible to the Titanic. Totally
Yes.
not questionable. It's funny because like the rich guy like kid got guilted into going for like I think Father's Day or some shit or his birthday.
Yep. Thanks, Dad. Thanks.
Funny as fuck to me. Man, we'll have to look into that. We'll have to see what like synopsis of that event, what people have made. I did catch a little bit of trash for like 5 minutes. Found a new channel. He's done some like collective videos of like what started all this. You know, he's like did this about Dick challenge or taking the challenge from Nina to read Ice Song, kick this off, and got some Vito videos. So got new content to dig into. But generally we're not tracking today. We're just being pure entertainment based. Our adoration for the series of Planet of the Apes and our disappointment with this movie, specifically for a great franchise. Yeah, Clip Summit is pretty awesome. But I'm gonna cut it short today. About 2 hours is good enough for me. I'm just tired. I don't know why, but this poison ivy is just like really dragging me down. I've probably had poison ivy on like my feet or ankles, but I've never ever had to deal with the infection. And so I've been taking Benadryl, putting creams on my face, and ice packs. My eyes swole really fucking bad, and it's just like really taking the juice out of me these last 2 days. But I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, and and Rookie talking some Planet of the Apes. I do suggest seeing it. Decide for yourselves. But I think you'll come away if you're a fan of the franchise and the intrigue of the antagonists and the world little nuggets they've put into the world. I think you'll come away probably completely agreeing with us. Some things you may not have thought about without us like pointing out because we're just nerds like that. But yeah, good stuff. Go sub to Rookie Critic if you haven't. You're gonna have Flash stuff soon, right? Your Speedster,
The Fat Speedster, indeed. But yeah, well, Angus, I will see Angus in person on Monday.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll stream next week because he's visiting. I don't know what his
I
life
doubt
will be
that.
like.
I doubt it.
In Hocking Hills.
We'll see though. If I'm like home at night and not doing anything with my dad, I might be able to do it from my phone.
Nice.
We'll see.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining. And yeah, next week's my birthday too. So
your birthday.
We'll do a catch up belated birthday for myself week after. So get your super duper chats ready for that stream to give me money. Star Wars is dead. Give me money. But thanks for joining. We'll talk to you, if not next week, the week after. And I'll probably do a stream in between for sure for detracting if I'm available. But farewell.